Okay, let's get to the last part of chapter 16. This is going to cover another type of antimicrobial substance called interferons. So interferons, the name is kind of funky. It seems a little intimidating, but it's really not too bad of a concept to understand. So you can kind of consider this if an intruder came into your house and you knew they were going to rob the whole neighborhood. As that intruder robbed your house and you saw them, would you sit there quietly, or would you try to yell to all the neighbors, or honk your horn, or set off an alarm to warn them to hey, lock your doors, or get your gun, or whatever, get your baseball bat ready for when the robber is going to go to their house next, right? You'd be yelling. You'd try to give a warning signal and try to interfere with that burglar's plans. So that's kind of what interferons do. They're interfering with antimicrobial, or with different microbes that we have. So interferons, we're going to see, these are going to be antimicrobial proteins. So interferon alpha and beta, these are going to be antiviral. And then interferon gamma is antibacterial. So what happens is that as the host cell becomes infected with a virus, actually I'll just draw it down here. So here in your figure, so we have a virus, and this goes ahead and it decides it's going to infect this cell. So once the virus enters into the cell, you can see here, it has its DNA or RNA, in this case RNA, and then you can see it starts, replicating. So in order for this cell to kind of warn all the surrounding cells, because what's going to happen at the end of this viral replication? This virus might burst open the cell, and it's just going to move on to hundreds of other cells in the surrounding area, or other parts of the body. So what's going to happen is this cell is going to produce what's called interferons. So the long story short, they can produce these interferons, and then these interferons get released by the cell. So you can see here they're getting released. So I'm just going to put interferons become released, and then whenever they exit the cell, they're going to go ahead and go to neighboring cells, or cells that the virus might go to next. So interferons are released, and they go to a different host cell. So they go to a second cell. That's not the first one. So anyway, so once the interferon's released, you can see here's the cell that it attached to, a neighboring host cell. And when this interferon enters into the cell, it's going to tell the neighboring host cell, so that's next, we'll just put this 1, interferons produced, 2, interferons released, and then 3, that interferon is going to tell the host cell to make antiviral proteins. So we'll say this host cell makes antiviral proteins, or AVP, antiviral proteins. So this host cell now, it has its baseball bat ready for that burglar, the virus, to enter into the cell. So you can see here that when the virus that just left this cell comes over and is ready to infect the second uninfected cell, that this one already has antiviral proteins that are being made. So these antiviral proteins are here, and as soon as this virus enters the cell, it gets clubbed with the baseball bat. So you can see here that it pretty much breaks down and degrades this virus. So that's the fourth step. So the virus is rendered ineffective due to those antiviral proteins that were being made. So So to sum that up, interferon alpha and beta, these are going to be antiviral proteins. And, these warn neighboring cells. So antiviral proteins produced by infected cell to warn neighboring cells. And also when they warn neighboring cells, they're going to cause those cells to produce antiviral proteins. So they warn neighboring cells to begin producing antiviral proteins. So that way when the virus comes and tries to infect that neighboring cell, the antiviral proteins will inhibit replication of the virus. I'll put on here viral replication. So interferon gamma then, it's another type of interferon. It's going to be antibacterial, and what's going to happen here is interferon gamma is going to induce phagocytosis of the bacteria by the neutrophils and macrophages. So we'll be talking about interferons again later, specifically alpha and beta. That's why we're going into a little more depth than the interferon gamma. But that's the interferons for you. And that concludes all of chapter 16.